Hello everyone and welcome to Day 7 of Alliance Tournament 12. I'm CCP Gargant and I will be your host for today. Here I'm joined with CCP Fozzy and Bacchanalian, the commentators, and we also have a special guest, CCP Antiquarian.
Hello.
Say hello to everybody and let's get this show on the road. How are you guys doing today?
Amazing. It's been a great week. We're all just mostly recovered at this point from the shock of last weekend, and looking forward to spectacular a set of matches today. I mean, this is just excellent all the way through.
There's not going to be a boring moment today.
No, I don't think so. I think every one of these matches is going to be absolutely riveting. There may be some blowouts one way or another, but I think there'll be surprising ones if they do happen. And either way, every one of these teams has fought really hard to get to where they are now, and they're really serious about it. There's no flukes left in the tournament at this point. Every one of these teams is prepared to be here. So
both you and Elise Randolph will also have a nail-biting moment as both of your teams are playing.
that is true.
And Sir Squeebles' team is in here still as
Yep,
well. Yeah,
that is also true. So
Yes, and
so far, one of the 4 commentator teams has been knocked out.
it'll be great. And then we have you here for in-show entertainment, should we say?
Yay!
CCP Antiquarian is a member of the Tri-Lambda team, which does the art for EVE Online. And we're going to be asking him some
non-tournament related questions. That's what you're going to be asking me.
Some hard-hitting questions about Fingate.
There you go. Wait. wait. That wasn't me.
That wasn't what we signed on for.
No.
But yeah, the first match of the day is going to be the Ronin versus MIF. And quickly talk about the bans before going any further. The Ronin have banned the Tango and Bagalum, while MIF banned the Guardian and the Oneros.
I think it's really interesting that MIF taken both armor logistics off the field.
Yep.
We've not really seen much of the Proteus of the Legion taking that role, so that really kind of forces the match into a shield setup. But Ronin have already banned out the Tengu, which takes away probably the most popular Tinker setup that you could see, and the Golem, which is a shield ship we've seen used actually in both armor and shield setups extremely effectively this most recent weekend. So I actually think the Golem is probably, to me, going to be the new ban of the weekend. I think that
I expect we're going to see a lot of it. We saw the 2 really impressive winners bracket matches last Sunday. They used Golems really effectively as drone control ships and consistent damage across the field. You can't jam them, you can't damp them, and they can make sure that the damage lands on the target.
So let's assume that you guys don't know what these bans mean. Let's go into this point info video that we have available to explain what we're talking about. So what this means is that these 4 hulls are now something that these teams can't bring, and each hull in the game has a specific point cost attached to it. That is
that is not these points.
That is not these points.
It's the break points on the mostly.
Yeah, this is but this is sort of how it's made up. There's a point cost attached to each and every hull, and then you try to make a composition of ships that makes most sense, and you get the most bang for your buck, so to speak. And this is what you field, 100 points maximum for both teams?
This is definitely last year's video. We actually did make a new version.
We did.
We just picked the wrong video, I believe. But so this is.
Let's not highlight the negatives, CCP Fuzzy. Let's not highlight the negative.
Just not highlight the numbers. People will learn those numbers. But yeah, I mean, when you ban out a ship, it means the other team can't bring it unless they've assigned that ship as their flagship, which can only be battleships, Tech 1 and faction battleships. And then teams can pick within all of these constraints of up to 100 points, up to 12 pilots to make the best team possible. And we've seen a huge variety of setups, even just through this tournament, of what people decide to bring.
One thing to mention is that you will see this happen. You'll go into a match and one team already has a point on the board. And what happens sometimes is sometimes the optimal setup the team finds, the one that works just they think the best, is only 99 points. So that gives the point to the other team already off the bat as though they've killed that point. But you'll see a lot of teams doing that actually because they think that the 99-point team actually fits what they want to do better.
Yeah. So, and you also see teams not bringing the full 12 pilots. That can often be a mistake because more pilots means more slots, it means more damage. But there, in some cases, especially in these Tinker setups where you're transferring capacitor back and forth and you need kind of larger, sturdier ships, those are a situation where bringing less than the 12 pilots is very viable.
Yeah. There's also a little information we can give you about how the arenas themselves are set up, and we'll get that up on screen now. So each team has to go through this when they come into the tournament system. They each choose a staging beacon that is a square that mirrors the other team's staging beacons perfectly. They then choose a distance of 0 to 50 kilometers to warp into the set battle arena, and land on grid in this fashion.
And they can choose to warp in at different ranges depending on the ships they bring. They don't have to all warp into the same range. We often see teams spread out with the screening ships up front, with their logistics ship in the back, and there's a lot of strategy behind that choice.
So now you know how we set this up and what's going on, and that's very important. CCP Phantom knows that.
It's something,
so
something to watch for with that too. You see with those teams warming in from different beacons is sometimes they don't land. A team wants to warp in at 50 and land as far from the other team as possible. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way because they can actually land at basically I think it's warping from a 90-degree angle to each other. So when you end up landing what would normally be both teams landing at 50 from the beacon, so 100 from each other, they actually wind up don't know the math on that, maybe 75 or something from each other. They're a lot closer than they would be otherwise. So
and there's no way to know what beacon your opponent's going to be warping into. Each side chooses it without knowledge of the other one, so it's pretty random, and it means that you have to be able to deal with a lot of different types of circumstances for the start of the match.
Yeah. Okay. So there's also the UI you'll be seeing during the matches, which we want to show you a little bit before we go into the first match. And the UI is a special made tool so that it's easier for us to show what's going on. But so you have the match timer at the start there. You have every effect that's going on each ship there. The shield, armor, and structure hit points are laid out in this fashion, and then the points are at the end. And the 3 colored bars at the top there are the defense, attack, and control bars. And these bars will show you what the teams are capable of doing, with the purple being active wraps, while the blue ones being effective hit points. So now that we've sort of informed you of how this all works, I think it's just time to go straight into the battlefield.
Yes, I think that's great.
Get out of this this talking. I've talked too much, and I need something to quench my thirst. I'm going to go first. I think the Ronin are going to take this. I'm sorry, MIF, but the Ronin...
the Ronin are your pick.
Yeah. What do you think, Antiquarian?
I don't know anything about MIF, so I'm leaning that way myself, but that's purely from speaking to you.
Yes. Yeah, I'm a very persuasive individual.
I was swayed entirely. So yeah, I'm sticking with the Ronin.
Right.
I'm going to be the odd man out and go MIF. I think they have maybe the possibility of an upset here. I definitely think Ronin are the favored team, but I'd rather Rote Capel have to face MIF, and that's who the winner of this match faces anyway, so going with MIF.
All right, yeah, I'm going to go with the Ronin. They've been incredibly impressive, basically for the last 8 years. These guys have been consistently really strong, and this year they've been bringing great setups as well, so I think they're going to take it.
And with that, I'd just like to say, Skal, let's go to the first match of the day.
Align. The clock bomb. Via, ragazzi, tutto. E via il jump bridge.
Do you like spaceships? Do you like explosions? Airlock Media. We make your preparation look good.
And welcome to Day 7, everybody. This is Elise Randolph, joined by Sir Squeebles in the commentator booth. We are going for Ronin MIF. Ronin will be in red, MIF in blue. And Squeebles, why don't you tell us about some of these ships? Right now on your screen, you're seeing this very pretty MIF Vargar.
It is good looking.
He's at the beacon at 0, though.
Yeah, questionable decision making. But the Ronin's team, they fielded 3 Sleipnirs, 3 Gilas, 2 Worms, 2 Merlins, and 2 Bantams. And meanwhile, on the MIF side, they have that very good-looking Vargar accompanied by Eos, 2 Ishtars, Stratios, and 3 Vexers.
And the match is starting right now. MIF came in at range, except for that Vargar, as we were pointing out. The Vargar had some issues connecting, but I don't know if he moved to the beacon at 0 himself or if he was moved there. Either way, we see this triple Sleipnir, triple Gila team rushing straight at this MIF team. And
Right.
the Ronin are really looking aggressive early on.
And they kind of have to be. I mean, we've seen the comp that MIF is flying in some form. I believe it was PL that flew a similar comp where they have drone boats that shotgun out, and if you can't lock those down, it takes a really, really long time to burn between the targets and take them down. Right now they're going for the EOS, though, and that EOS is really hurting.
Man, this Sleipnir team is just tearing this MIF team apart. Look at this. This EOS is going down so hard, and these Bantams are keeping this heel alive. And bam, there goes first blood on day 7. MIF lose their EOS, and that is pretty crucial.
And that Gila of Braggle is actually still able to burn. At no point was he tackled, so he's going almost 3K right now, still catching Bantam reps.
Boom! Wow, that Ishtar just vanished. That Ishtar just vanished from Svarog. MIF is really looking behind the 8 ball on this one, trying to emulate a very popular setup. But the Golem got banned out, so they had to take this Vargar, which is clearly not that great.
Yeah, and we've seen that done before. And when you're talking about something like a Marauder, you're talking about E-War and vulnerability, but you're also talking about damage projection.
And another one bites the dust in that one.
Yeah,
like,
these
MIF
Vexers are going to go down
hemorrhaging
super
ships
fast.
now.
So these Merlins presumably are the tackle. They're burning around. As soon as they catch something, it should go down. I mean, these Sleipnirs can close range pretty quick. They've got decent projection. The other Ishtar now, which is the vast majority of the damage for MIF, going down into structure.
If
boom
the
goes the
Sleipnirs
dynamite.
are on his face.
Now here is the bet. 5 million ISK. Will the Vargar die?
I think the Vargar will definitely die. Look at this damage.
I think he's going to super die.
So, I mean, let's talk about this setup real quick, because right now they're just chasing some ships around and sort of milking it. Actually, Ronin have tackled almost all of the remaining frigate or cruiser hulls left of MIF.
Yeah, it's strange. You actually can't see it on the tournament overlay, but MIF, the Stratios and the Vexer of 0-1 are both tackled. They're both scrammed, so that's why their speed is low right now.
Yep, exactly. And there goes 0-1, and man, MIF. These guys.
That was pretty convincing. It is interesting to note, actually, that the Ronin and MIF both relied really, really heavily on Sleipnir teams. So they've both flown this Sleipnir Gila team. For MIF, that means they know how it works, hypothetically, and they should have crafted sort of knowing how it would work. And for the Ronin, it means they were probably a little more comfortable off the bat. I have a feeling MIF saw Pandemic Legion use this setup pseudo-successfully, or successfully, really.
Very successfully.
Okay. Let's not go too far. But and they thought, hey, this looks fun, and it looks like something we could do. Turns out it could have been one of those things, but not both.
There you go. And the cool thing about this Ronin team is, like, we saw this all last week, this Sleipnir Helicore, but what they did differently is they swapped their Logi for 2 logistics frigates so they could shoehorn in another Sleipnir.
Yep.
So the amount of DPS, I mean, just look at that attack bar. That attack bar is huge.
Yep.
And that's with 1 Hela down, so, man,
Yeah,
this team is a force to be reckoned with.
It's definitely impressive.
Let's see how fast his Vargar dies. Let's just... I don't know. I think as soon as he gets on there, 35 seconds maybe.
So he's got an ECM effect on him.
Guess
where that's from?
Where's that from?
No, I'm saying, do you want to guess?
I thought you were just being clever. It
No.
could be some jam drones. It could be some of these Merlins. Merlins are really good with their mid slots, so they can fit a lot of utility. That's why they're one of the most popular tournament ships. Of course, the Worms are just like the yoked out version of the Merlin with some drones.
Yoked out.
Yep, I said that.
So is it dying? It is dying.
It is dying.
He's half shields. He's boosting. Well, I mean, he's boosting pretty comfortably.
He's got a pretty massive tank considering the amount of damages here, but as you can see, the attack bar is not fully applied yet.
Yeah.
I have a feeling MIF went with some cheeky plays, and they put their Vargar at the beacon at 0 and said, hey, this guy's out here on his own.
Well,
please shoot him first.
That may be the case, but I sort of disagree. I think if they were wanting to position that strategically, nobody's going to say shoot the Vargar. And, well,
but he came in at 0, like 50
well,
from his bros.
okay, fair enough. But there's 2 options for him coming in at 0. Either one, he came in the hopes to tackle something to prevent a rush. So he could have grabbed a Gila, he could have grabbed the Sleipnir, and kept them from moving out. Obviously, Gila wouldn't
That's
have
some
been
new
much.
meta stuff, but yeah, I guess.
Well,
I guess
you know, when you play fast and loose like I do, new metas are always an option. But he could have, assuming that was the case, he still could have screened more effectively by maybe not coming in literally at 0. Like a metaphorical 0, aka like 20 or 30. Probably would have been.
20, the good old metaphorical 0. But as you can see, this Vargar is tanking really hard.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was bait the whole time, but
you don't put your bait at 0. though.
I think
that's
you do.
That's not super bait.
I think that's what bait is. Anyways.
If you're trying to bait a fish, you don't put the minnow in its mouth. You put it on a hook. I'm not an outdoorsman, but what I'm saying is the Varger should not have been at 0.
Varger is actually still doing some impressive amount of damage to this worm, so he can hit pretty far out, and this worm is very far from the Varger.
Merlin did die at some point during this discussion.
Yeah.
It is interesting to note, though, that the Varger is dropping low. A lot of the Marauders we've seen have been dual shield boosted, so they'll have an ancillary shield booster as well as a regular shield booster. If that ASB runs out, your shields start to get low, you start to feel beads of sweat on your forehead, and then you lose.
Yeah, his palms are sweaty right now while he's trying to blap this Merlin. That's just, for some ego right there. He's going to go down.
For some ego.
Yeah.
Or maybe points.
You get some swag. No, it's just swagger. These guys are going to be eliminated since we are in the elimination bracket. MIF are going home. They will get some swaggy Rattlesnake Blueprint copies for participating in the tournament.
Swaggy.
And some Plex because they're in the prize pool.
Yeah, that is true. They made it quite far, and they did really well, and it's regrettable that maybe they just tried to imitate a setup that they didn't understand fully. But to the credit of the Ronin, they piloted super aggressively. They locked down that kiting ability, and there you go. They have taken the match.
Yep, the Varger did die. Took 3 minutes, but that is us, or that is it for us. We'll send it back to the studio.
What a great way to start day 7 of Alliance Tournament 12. Hi, I'm CCP Gargant, joined here by CCP Fuzzy, Bacchanalian, and our good friend CCP Antiquarian. That was impressive.
Yes,
It was an impressive show of trying to copy something, and an impressive show of force.
Yeah, I mean, I was very impressed with the Ronin setup. They've brought the Sleipnir Gila teams a lot this tournament so far, but they haven't shown this variant of it, which is the double logistics rig, to get an extra Sleipnir out of it, which is pretty awesome. It does a ton of damage, as we saw these ships just evaporating, and then it was able to break through a Varger tank. So I really like the setup.
I feel like MIF watched the Pandemic Legion setup last weekend, said that's an awesome setup, we can't figure out how to beat it, we're going to bring it. And didn't think it through completely. I don't think it was executed as well as Pandemic Legions. And I mean, ultimately, I against that setup, you kind of talked about this with me just during the match, that it doesn't seem very effective. Their bans didn't really make sense with it, banning out armor. And you don't want kiting ships flying against you when you're flying a kiting drone setup, sentry setup. So, at any rate, I just feel like, and especially the other thing you'd mentioned to me is that Ronin hasn't been really bringing E-War heavily at all, and that setup is meant to be immune to the damp war. Well, there was no damp war. We didn't see a single damp effect. I think we saw one ECM effect that was maybe from a stray drone or something. Yeah. So it was really kind of a poorly thought out setup, I think, by MIF, and I don't think they really had a chance to execute well against that Ronin team. That Ronin team just ran them over. Yeah,
we talked a bit about how the Golem is obviously the better choice for that setup. It does the damage more consistently, and it's got the painter bonus. But even with the Golem, I actually think they would have been in a lot of trouble against this Ronin team. Yeah.
Yep. Good call on calling the Ronin.
Yeah, I didn't want to say anything. I had a little bit of for information on that. Tip off from a guy that I know in a thing. It was good.
Very good to have connections.
Really, actually, to be fair, I was happy to see a Stratios. It's one of my favorite hulls, and something that I actually worked on a little bit before they came out. So seeing that blow up was lovely.
You're a part of the team that handles the art assets of EVE Online.
That's what we do.
As a QA person.
I'm a
That's
graphics analyst. It is quality assurance.
QA person is the technical term.
A QA person is me. Yeah, that's the kind of gate to actually the assets leaving the artist's hands and getting into the game. We do all the publishing. We check to make sure that everything appears as it should when it blows up at the hands of angry Ronin.
Which is which is what we were watching here.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful thing to see a beautiful ship explode in a beautiful fashion.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I think the art guys you've been all hitting it out of the park with these last couple of ship releases. I mean, the Sisters of Eve ships and the Mortis ships, both absolutely gorgeous.
It's not so much as hitting it out of the park as hammering it as flat as possible.
That was what I was about to say. What do you think about all the nicknames that the Mortis ships have acquired?
I've heard a few. I've heard the Flattle ship, which
I love that one.
which is nice. The spatula, the what is the pizza shovel?
The Orthrus is the spatula.
The
Orthrus is sort of like, it's like you have a skillet, and that's the Barghest, and then you have the Orthrus to sort of, anyway.
Okay.
So,
I like the Orthrus. I actually flew it for the first time last night at the commentator room, and I loved it. I'd never noticed the moving parts before. That was awesome.
The warp animations.
Oh my gosh, that was great.
They're great now. They were when the guy doing the modeling is like, that's good enough, and you're like, come on, come on.
So tell us a little bit before we start talking about the next match about what it is, the life in QA. A day in the life.
You get to break stuff, right?
We do. We get to try. Most of what comes across my desk is fairly finished. We don't micromanage the early concepts. We let the artists kind of have free reign, and the art director gives them some guidance and has final checkoff before we progress forward. But by the time it gets to us for publishing and for actually putting into the client, it's a fully formed vision. So really, it's making sure that textures are seamed correctly, making sure that everything is everything works as it's supposed to. The animations play, the turrets show up correctly, and the asset works like it's intended to work.
Yeah.
So I show up, go through my task list, look at beautiful ships all day, have a drink.
Say yes to ship skin requests, such as the one we had for Alliance Tournament prices.
We approve every request that is already in the plan.
Yes, okay.
As required. Oh. No, it's busy. It's a lot of, especially with the scale of Eve, there's a lot of work that goes into making sure that fixing one thing doesn't break another thing. And we've got a great player base that is extremely vocal, and we are happy to have eyes on for everything. We've got, in case anyone's interested in participating in the QA effort on a volunteer basis, if you go to eveonline.com, go to the community tab, and then head down to the ISD page. There's a lot of information there, and we love people helping out with that.
Yeah.
Successful.
Right?
So, Elise Randolph mentioned a little bit about the skins that we're giving out as prizes, and you get how many for each win?
So you get 10 of them for each series that you win, and up until now the series have all been single match series, but we're going to see them go to best ofs later. But basically, it means that every single match people are in, they're going to get prizes if they win that. So it's not just, if I make it to the last weekend I get prizes. It's like from the very beginning, if I win this match, we're going to get prizes.
Yep.
And it's going to be it's a special skin that you can apply to the rattlesnake that gives it a very similar look to our prize ships, the chameleon and the whiptail. And that's one of those requests that game design passed over to Trilambda, and they were able to make some really awesome stuff and put it in the plan for us.
That's excellent. And the teams that have to go through the losers bracket inevitably get a little bit more of them.
Yes.
As they have gone through. Some of them have already gone through 6 matches over the course of this tournament. I don't think either of these teams that are fighting next have gone through that ordeal, but next up we have Pasta Syndicate versus Test Alliance. Please ignore.
I think Test actually, I think Test has flown 5 and Pasta have flown 4, if my list is right. Affirmative Quebec 4th, and then they lost to Exodus.
Yes.
Test was a Shirkan Han, Easily Excited, Feigned Disorder, and lost to TNT.
So Pasta have banned out the Tenko and the Ishtar, while Test have banned out the Eos and the Armageddon. So we're seeing pretty similar bans to what we've seen.
So we see Pasta banning out the Tengu, trying to at least weaken that distributed Tinker that we've seen Test bringing out in the last couple of matches. Although actually last match for Test, they got a Tengu ban and then just dodged it by going Loki.
And they did it really well.
And it worked.
Yeah.
And so the Loki, we've talked about before, the Loki is a weaker choice, but it's not actually that much weaker. It actually does work quite well. So people can pull it off. And it'll be interesting to see whether Test keeps up going with this setup that's worked for them really well and that we've all been very impressed with, or whether they shake things up, because Pasta's had a whole week to study it and try to beat it.
Yeah, that is the question. Do they first of all, do they have another setup? You know, they've been writing that setup really effectively through the tournament this far, but you're into the final weekend. If you have new setups, you need to bring them. And I've said it a million times, don't keep bringing the same setup. But you know, it could also be, is Pasta a group that they think is going to present enough of a challenge to bring out their big guns? You know, I think their next match, they would play Hydra if they win this match. So at the same time, it's like, if we've got the ace up your sleeve, do you save it for Hydra? Do you take that risk? That's a huge gamble at this point in the tournament. It's like, you know, if you lose a match, you're out, but you still have a bigger dog to fight next. So we'll see what they bring. I'm really curious, actually.
I'm a strong believer in Test. I am going to stick with Test, as they have impressed me.
I've seen your prediction sheet, because we've all predicted into the future as well, not just these matches that we